The research base Aaron 7 floated above a quiet blue planet. It was full of scientists from many alien races. They came to study dangerous creatures found across the galaxy. The halls were white and bright, filled with the hum of machines and the smell of metal and clean air. Among them was a young Korean biologist named Dr. Han Deun. She had calm eyes and soft hands that never trembled, even when she worked with things that could destroy her with one breath. She was proud to be one of the few humans trusted on this base. That day, a new egg arrived. It was silver-gray and large, with strange symbols pulsing across its shell. The container holding it hummed with energy. The guards called it a Ragnar egg. Everyone whispered that the Ragnar species were monsters, dragons that burned entire planets. The egg was supposed to be dead, but Deun knew better. There was life inside it. Strong, wild life. She took careful notes as she walked around it. Lights blinked. The scanners showed unstable readings. The dragon's heartbeat was faster than normal. She called for more safety measures, but the commander said the base could handle it. Deun's niece, Yuna, was visiting that week. The girl was only 7 years old, full of energy and curiosity. Her brother, Deun's older sibling, had begged her to watch the child while he worked back on Earth. Yuna was small, with messy hair and bright eyes. She always asked questions that made the adults laugh. She liked drawing stars and spaceships in her little notebook. Yuna was not supposed to enter the lab area. But children are curious. While Deun worked with her team, Yuna peeked from the hallway. She saw the giant silver egg glowing softly under the lights. It looked magical to her. She pressed her small face against the glass and whispered, "Wow!" The egg pulsed as if it heard her. Suddenly, alarms went off. The lights flashed red. One of the machines nearby started to spark. The containment field flickered. The other scientists shouted and tried to fix it. Deun ran toward the control panel, her hands flying over the keys. She shouted for everyone to stay back. But Yuna didn't know what was happening. She saw cracks appear on the egg's shell. Her heart beat fast. The sound reminded her of a baby chick breaking out of an egg. She thought maybe it was hatching and needed help. Without anyone seeing, she slipped through the small door on the side that led into the chamber. The shell split open with a sharp sound. Steam poured out. The creature inside was small, no bigger than a dog, but covered in rough scales like stone. Its eyes glowed a deep red. It opened its mouth and let out a sharp hiss that made the glass vibrate. The soldiers raised their weapons. Everyone froze. Yuna stood just a few feet away. Her eyes were wide. The dragon turned its head toward her, ready to attack. But Yuna smiled. She tilted her head and said softly, "You're so cute." For a moment, no one breathed. The dragon blinked. It tilted its head the same way she did. Then it made a low sound, not a hiss but something soft, almost like a bird's chirp. Yuna giggled. She took a slow step forward, holding out her hand. The scientists shouted at her to stop, but she didn't listen. The creature sniffed her fingers. Instead of biting, it rubbed its snout against her palm. Deun felt her heart stop. She ran to the control panel and locked the safety doors to stop the soldiers from firing. The energy readings dropped fast. The red lights on the screens turned green. It made no sense. The creature that could destroy a base with one breath was calm, almost gentle. The soldiers lowered their weapons slowly. The commander looked both amazed and terrified. "How is this possible?" he asked. Deun could not answer. She only stared at Yuna and the small dragon. The creature had folded its wings and now sat beside the girl, watching her with strange curiosity. Yuna laughed softly and said, "You're not scary. You're just a baby." The dragon blinked again and made a little purring sound. It was strange to hear such a deadly being act so calm. The sensors picked up no dangerous energy, no sign of attack. Daun finally stepped inside the chamber. Her hands trembled for the first time in years. She called gently, "Yuna, step away slowly." But Yuna shook her head. "It's okay, Auntie. She likes me." Daun stared at the creature's glowing eyes. "She?" "Yeah," Yuna said proudly. "Her name is Ruri." Daun didn't know where the name came from, but the moment Yuna said it, the dragon blinked again and gave a small chirp. The scientists outside whispered among themselves. It was like the creature understood her. The commander stepped closer to the glass and said, "We need to separate them now." But Daun held up her hand. "If we move too fast, it might attack." The commander frowned but nodded. Ruri stayed close to Yuna, her tail wrapped around her small feet. The dragon's body glowed with faint blue lines, and the air around her felt warm. Yuna smiled and stroked her scales, whispering something no one could hear. The machines stayed calm. No alarms. No energy surges. Just silence and wonder. After some time, Ruri yawned and laid her head down. Yuna sat beside her, her back against the dragon's warm body. She looked like she had found a new friend. Daun didn't know what to do. This was beyond science. It was something emotional, something powerful. When they finally took Yuna out of the chamber, Ruri made a low growl, her eyes glowing again. The lights flickered. Yuna turned around quickly and waved. "It's okay, Ruri. I'll be back." The dragon blinked, then calmed again. The commander spoke to Daun in a low voice. "That thing is dangerous. It must be destroyed." Daun shook her head. "If we try that, it will kill us all. You saw what happened when Yuna was near it. The creature only listens to her." He looked at her, unsure. "You think a child can control a Ragnar?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "But she already did." Later that night, Yuna sat in her room, drawing in her notebook. She drew a picture of a little dragon and wrote the name Ruri under it. She smiled to herself and whispered, "Don't worry. I'll see you tomorrow." Outside, in the containment chamber, Ruri opened her glowing eyes. She lifted her head and made a soft sound, as if she could hear Yuna from far away. The sensors recorded a pulse of warmth that spread through the base. The scientists watching the monitors could only stare in silence. Dr. Han Daun stood in the dark control room, looking at the screens. She had seen many strange things in her career, but nothing like this. A child had done what hundreds of scientists could not. She had calmed a monster with a smile and a kind word. Daun whispered softly to herself, "What are you, little one?" "Both of you." After the strange event in the lab, everyone on the base talked about the little girl and the dragon. The news spread fast through Aaron 7. Many of the alien workers whispered when they saw Yuna walking with her aunt. They could not believe that the child had touched a Ragnar and lived. Some were afraid, and others were simply curious. Dr. Han Daun tried to keep her niece away from the gossip, but Yuna was not bothered. She only cared about seeing her new friend again. The next morning, Daun took Yuna to the observation deck. Below them, through the thick glass, they could see Ruri inside the containment chamber. The dragon was sleeping, her silver-gray scales shining under the lights. Her wings were still small, but when she moved, they shimmered with blue lines like running water. Yuna pressed her hands against the glass and said softly, "Good morning, Ruri." The dragon's eyes opened slowly. She looked around until she found the little girl. The red glow in her eyes turned soft, like warm fire. She stood up and walked toward the glass, making a low sound that seemed happy. The scientists around them gasped. The monitors showed that Ruri's energy level dropped the moment she saw Yuna. Daun took notes quietly. She had never seen anything like this. The Ragnar species was known for rage and hunger, but this one acted like a pet around Yuna. The more she watched them, the more she realized that Ruri responded to Yuna's voice, her tone, even her laughter. Over the next few days, Yuna visited Ruri often. Each time, the dragon became calmer. She even started to eat small pieces of food Yuna brought, a strange mix of meat and minerals. Doon watched through the glass as her niece laughed and played. Ruri followed her movements carefully, copying her tilts and head turns like a student learning from a teacher. The base commander, Captain Park Ji-ho, didn't like it. He was tall, strict, and never smiled. "Dr. Han," he said one morning, "this thing is dangerous. We should destroy it before it grows." Doon shook her head. "You saw what happened when the child was near it. If we hurt it, it will kill us all." The captain frowned. "You think that creature feels love? It's just pretending. It's waiting to grow strong." Doon looked through the glass again. Yuna was sitting cross-legged, holding a small stone. Ruri gently touched it with her nose, making the girl laugh. "Maybe," Doon said softly, "but I think it's learning." The captain didn't answer. He only gave orders to increase security around the chamber. That night, Doon couldn't sleep. She walked to the observation deck again. The room was dim, quiet except for the hum of machines. Inside the chamber, Ruri lay curled up, her tail twitching slightly. Yuna had given her a soft blanket during the day, and Ruri had pulled it close like a toy. Doon smiled sadly. It reminded her of her niece sleeping with her stuffed bear. She turned when she heard footsteps. It was Captain Park again. "You're still watching it?" he asked. "She's still just a child," Doon said. "She doesn't understand danger. But somehow, that's what made the dragon trust her." The captain crossed his arms. "I hope your trust won't destroy this base." Then he left without another word. The next morning, Yuna came running into the lab, holding a drawing. She had drawn Ruri with large wings and a big smile. "Auntie, I made this for her," she said happily. Doon smiled and took her to the chamber. When Ruri saw Yuna, she lifted her head and chirped. Yuna pressed the picture against the glass. "See? That's you, Ruri." Ruri stared at the paper for a long time. Then she touched the glass where the drawing was, leaving a faint blue mark. Doon's scanner beeped softly. The dragon's energy shifted again, stable, calm. Later that day, the scientists gathered for a meeting. Some wanted to keep studying Ruri. Others wanted her destroyed. An alien scientist from the Varn race stood up and said, "If the Ragnar grows, it will kill us all. The human child is a danger too." Doon felt anger rise inside her. "Yuna saved us," she said firmly. "Without her, this creature would have already burned the base." The alien hissed. "Then maybe we should test what happens when she is not here." Before anyone could argue, Ruri's growl echoed through the halls. The monitors showed her energy levels spiking again. She was reacting to their voices even though she couldn't hear the words. Doon realized that Ruri was somehow connected to Yuna's emotions. If Yuna felt sad or scared, Ruri became upset. That evening, Yuna sat beside Doon in their small quarters. "Auntie," she said quietly, "why do they all look scared of Ruri?" "Because they don't understand her," Doon said. "She's different, and sometimes people fear what they don't know." Yuna looked down. "But she's nice to me." Doon smiled and brushed her hair. "Yes, she is. You have a special gift, Yuna. You make others feel safe." The next day, the team allowed Yuna inside the chamber again, but this time Doon went with her. The air inside was warm, filled with the smell of metal and ozone. Ruri came forward slowly, her wings trembling. She made a soft humming sound when she saw Yuna. The girl reached out her hand, and the dragon lowered her head to touch it. "Hello again, Ruri," Yuna said. I missed you. Ruri closed her eyes and let out a deep purr. The sound vibrated through the room. Dawn watched closely. Every movement was gentle. She took her scanner and checked the readings. Everything was normal. The dragon was calm. Completely calm. Yuna giggled and started humming a song she learned from her father. Ruri tilted her head, then started to hum along, a deep, strange tone that filled the chamber. Dawn felt her eyes water. She could not explain why, but the sound was beautiful and sad at the same time. Outside, a few scientists stopped to listen. The base was quiet. The sound carried through the halls, gentle and pure. It was as if a storm had passed and left only peace. After that day, Yuna and Ruri were allowed to spend more time together. Dawn always stayed close, taking notes. She learned that Ruri responded to kindness and calm voices. Harsh sounds made her scales glow brighter. Loud arguments made her tail twitch nervously. The creature felt emotions like a human child. One evening, while Yuna and Ruri played, Dawn noticed something strange. When Yuna tripped and scraped her knee, Ruri's eyes flashed red. The air grew hot for a moment. Dawn quickly picked Yuna up and smiled to calm her. "It's okay, it's just a small scratch," she said. Ruri's eyes slowly turned blue again, and the heat faded. Dawn realized what had happened. The dragon felt Yuna's pain as her own. It wasn't just friendship, it was a bond deeper than science could explain. That night, Dawn wrote in her report, "The Ragnar hatchling is emotionally connected to the child. The creature mirrors her feelings. This connection may be the key to controlling or calming it." She paused and looked at the window. Beyond the glass, the stars shone like silver dust. Somewhere in the distance, other creatures like Ruri might exist. But none would ever have a friend like Yuna. As Yuna slept, Ruri rested too, curling her wings tight. The machines around her glowed softly, showing stable readings. The base was peaceful for now. But Dawn knew peace would not last. The galaxy feared what it did not understand. And soon, someone out there would come for the child and the dragon. Weeks passed on the space base Aaron 7, and the story of the human child and the dragon spread across the stars. People in nearby systems whispered about it. Some said the humans had found a way to control monsters. Others said they were raising a weapon. Whatever the truth was, everyone wanted to see the strange bond between the little girl and the creature called Ruri. Yuna did not know about the rumors. She only cared about her new friend. Every day she visited Ruri with her aunt, Dr. Han Dawn. The dragon was growing fast. Her wings were now wide and beautiful, glowing softly under the lab lights. Her scales had changed from silver gray to a deep blue, like the color of Earth's oceans. When she moved, small sparks of light followed her body. She was no longer small like a dog. She was the size of a car, but still acted gentle when Yuna was near. Ruri listened to Yuna's voice, followed her hand when she pointed, and even bowed her head when Yuna said, "Sit." The scientists were amazed. They took notes and ran quiet tests. Ruri reacted to every word and emotion. When Yuna smiled, the dragon purred softly. When she looked sad, the dragon lowered her head and made a soft sound like a whine. One afternoon, Dawn was in the control room, checking the scanners. Captain Park Ji-ho walked in with a serious face. "Dr. Han," he said, "the Varn Dominion has sent a message." Dawn turned to him. "What do they want?" "They want the dragon. They say it belongs to them. They say keeping it here breaks galactic law." Dawn frowned. "If we hand Ruri over, they'll kill her." The captain nodded slowly. "I know. But if we don't, they may attack the station." Before Dawn could answer, the lights flickered. The energy readings on the screen spiked. "What's happening?" she asked. A voice from the lower console shouted, "The dragon's energy is increasing." Something's wrong. Daun looked through the glass wall. Yuna was standing inside the chamber, crying. One of the scientists had tried to pull her away from Ruri for a test. The dragon had reacted at once. Her eyes glowed red, her wings spread wide, and the air shimmered with heat. The soldiers aimed their weapons, but Daun shouted, "Don't shoot!" Yuna reached out and hugged Ruri's leg. "It's okay. I'm not scared," she said loudly. The dragon's breathing slowed. The red light in her eyes faded back to blue. The heat dropped. Daun ran inside and pulled her niece close. Ruri looked at them, her head lowering as if she felt sorry. After the room was calm again, Daun scolded the scientist who had grabbed Yuna. "Never touch her again without my permission," she said firmly. The man nodded, pale and shaking. That night, Daun stayed in the lab alone. She looked at the reports. Every time Yuna felt a strong emotion, Ruri's energy reacted. It was like they were connected through an invisible thread. She remembered when Yuna scraped her knee and Ruri became angry. It was not a random link, it was something deeper. She wrote in her notes, "Ruri's power follows the child's feelings. Fear makes her dangerous. Love makes her calm." Outside the base, the stars were quiet. But far away, something else was watching. The Varn Dominion's fleet was moving closer to Aaron, 7. They had no intention of letting the humans keep the dragon. The next morning, Yuna woke up early. She ran to the observation room, carrying a small book. "Auntie, I want to read to Ruri today," she said. Daun smiled tiredly and nodded. "All right, but stay behind the glass this time." Yuna opened her book and began to read. The story was about a bird who wanted to fly higher than anyone else. Her voice was soft and full of feeling. Ruri lay down and listened. The dragon's tail moved slowly from side to side. When Yuna laughed, Ruri made a low sound that almost sounded like a laugh too. The soldiers watching outside lowered their weapons and smiled a little. For a moment, everyone forgot their fear. Later that day, the commander called Daun to a meeting. Around the table sat humans and aliens, all looking serious. "We received a second message from the Varn Dominion," the captain said. "They are sending ships. They say they will take the dragon by force." A murmur spread through the room. One alien officer said, "If they attack, we cannot win. They have a full fleet." Daun clenched her hands. "Then we must hide Ruri and Yuna. They cannot find them." Captain Park shook his head. "There is nowhere to hide on this station. And if Ruri feels danger, she might lose control." The room went silent. Everyone knew he was right. Ruri's power was enough to destroy the base if she became angry or scared. That evening, Yuna sat beside Ruri again. She noticed her dragon friend looked restless. "What's wrong, Ruri?" she asked. Ruri made a deep sound and looked toward the ceiling, as if sensing something far away. The blue glow in her eyes flickered. Yuna frowned. "It's okay. I'm here." She placed her hand on the dragon's snout. The light steadied again. Daun stood behind the glass, feeling a chill in her chest. She could see the connection between them more clearly than ever. Ruri's strength came from Yuna's calm. The girl's small hand held back something that could tear the galaxy apart. That night, Daun and Captain Park stood together in the command center. Through the large windows, they could see stars shifting. A warning alarm sounded. "Unidentified ships entering the system," a voice said. The captain's face turned cold. "They're here." The screens showed dark shapes moving through space. The Varn fleet had arrived. "Send a message," Park said. "Tell them we are not giving up the dragon." Daun looked at him, surprised. "You're standing with us?" He gave a small smile. "That little girl reminds me what being human means." Back in her room, Yuna couldn't sleep. She looked out the window and saw faint lights in the distance. "Auntie said those are ships," she whispered to Rory through the small speaker they used when apart. "Are they bad people?" Rory made a low sound, like a growl. "Don't worry. I'll protect you," Una said, even though she was the smaller one. The next day, the tension grew. The Varn ships were closer now. The base was preparing for battle, though everyone knew they were outnumbered. Doon made Una stay in her quarters, but the girl didn't want to. "Rory will be scared if I'm not with her," she said. "I know," Doon said softly, "but it's too dangerous." When Doon left for the control room, Una waited for a few minutes, then quietly slipped out. She ran through the hallways, her small feet making soft sounds on the metal floor. She knew the way to the lab by heart. When she entered, Rory was pacing inside her chamber, growling lowly. The lights flickered again. "Rory!" Una shouted. The dragon turned at once. Her eyes softened. Una smiled and ran closer. "I'm here now." Rory lowered her head and let Una touch her. The warmth returned. The machines stopped beeping wildly. Far above, Doon saw the readings on her screen drop suddenly. "What happened?" someone asked. "She found her," Doon whispered. Una went to her. Captain Park looked at the monitors showing the incoming ships. "Then maybe that's our only chance." Outside, the stars were filled with light from the enemy fleet. Inside the chamber, Una hugged the dragon tightly. "Don't be afraid, Rory," she whispered. "We'll be okay." The dragon made a soft sound and wrapped her wings protectively around the child. In that moment, something deep and ancient awoke inside Rory. The alarms of Aaron, 7 rang through every hallway. Red lights flashed on the walls, and the air was full of noise and fear. The Varn Dominion ships had surrounded the base. Through the large windows, the crew could see dozens of dark shapes blocking the stars. Their weapons glowed like burning suns. The humans and aliens on the station ran to their posts, preparing for the worst. Captain Park Ji-ho stood in the command center, his hands tight on the table. "Raise shields," he ordered. The crew followed at once. The screen showed the shimmering blue energy field that covered the base, but everyone knew it wouldn't last long against the Varn fleet. Dr. Han De-un stood beside him, watching the readings. Her heart raced. She was thinking of Una and Rory. She had ordered the guards to lock the lab and protect the child, but she was still afraid. The Varn did not want peace. They wanted the dragon dead. The first blast hit the shields. The base shook. Sparks fell from the ceiling. People screamed and ran for cover. Captain Park shouted, "Return fire! Use all defense turrets!" Bright streaks of light shot from the base, but they were small compared to the enemy's power. Inside the lab, Una held on to Rory. The dragon's eyes were glowing a deep blue, her wings half spread. She could feel the fear around her. The vibrations from the explosions made her tail lash against the floor. Una hugged her tighter. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm here, Rory. Don't be scared." Rory let out a deep, low sound. The air shimmered around her, and the machine started to beep faster. The energy she was giving off grew stronger with every heartbeat. Outside, in the command center, De-un saw the readings spike again. "Her power is rising," one of the technicians said. "She's reacting to the attack." Captain Park turned to De-un. "Can you control her?" "Only Una can," she said. "If she gets scared, Rory will lose control." Another blast hit the shields. The floor shook so hard that De-un had to grab the railing. "I'm going to her," she said. Park grabbed her arm. "It's too dangerous. She's my niece. I have to protect her." Without waiting, she ran out of the room. Down in the lab, Una looked up as the door opened. De-un rushed in. The air was hot and bright from Rory's energy. "Yuna," she called. "You have to keep her calm." "I'm trying," Yuna said. "She's scared." Daun ran to her and knelt beside her. "Look at me," she said softly. "You're brave, right? Ruri needs you. She listens to you." Yuna nodded, her eyes full of tears. She turned back to Ruri and took a deep breath. "Ruri, it's okay. We're not hurt. We're safe." She reached up and touched the dragon's snout. Slowly, the blue glow softened. The machines stopped beeping. The room grew cooler again. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then another explosion hit, louder than before. The lights went out, and the sound of tearing metal filled the air. Daun fell to the ground as the ceiling cracked. Smoke filled the lab. The shields were failing. Captain Park's voice came through the intercom. "The outer hull is breached. We're losing power." Daun coughed and pulled Yuna close. "We have to move," she said. But Ruri growled and spread her wings. The blue glow returned, brighter this time. The air pulsed with energy. The metal floor under her claws melted slightly. "She's protecting us," Yuna said in a small voice. Daun looked at the dragon, amazed and frightened. "Ruri, if you can hear me, please help us." Outside, the Varn ships were preparing for another strike. Their leader appeared on the screen in the command center. His voice was cold. "Hand over the Ragnar creature or be destroyed." Captain Park stood tall. "We will not surrender." The Varn commander sneered. "Then you will burn." The ships fired again. The base shook violently. The shields broke apart in sparks of light. Just as the blast was about to hit the station, something happened. A huge wave of blue light burst out from the lab. It surrounded the entire base like a living shield. In the lab, Ruri stood with her wings open wide, glowing like a star. Yuna stood beside her, holding her hand on the dragon's leg. The light came from Ruri's body, but it felt warm and calm instead of burning. The blast from the Varn ships hit the light and stopped. The energy spread outward, pushing the enemy fire away. The crew in the command center stared in shock. Daun could feel the power through the floor. She watched as Ruri's glow spread through the walls, repairing cracks and sealing holes. "She's protecting us all," she whispered. The Varn ships fired again and again, but their attacks only bounced off the glowing field. Some of their ships were hit by the reflected blasts and exploded. The rest began to pull back. The commander shouted orders, but the fleet was breaking apart. They had never seen such power. Inside the base, Yuna's face was pale. "Ruri, stop. You'll get hurt," she cried. But the dragon only looked at her with gentle eyes. Ruri made a soft sound, and the light began to fade slowly. The shaking stopped. The alarms went quiet. The base was safe. Daun held Yuna tightly. "It's over," she said softly. "You did it." Captain Park's voice came through the speaker. "Dr. Han, report. What happened down there?" Daun took a deep breath. "The dragon protected us." She stopped the attack. There was silence for a few seconds. Then Park said quietly, "Tell the child, thank you." Hours later, the damage teams worked to repair the base. Smoke still rose from broken panels, and the corridors were full of tired workers. But everyone was alive. Daun sat beside Yuna in the medical bay. The girl was tired but smiling. "Ruri saved us," she said. Daun smiled back. "Yes, she saved everyone." Captain Park entered the room, his uniform torn and dirty. He looked at Yuna and said, "You were very brave today." Yuna smiled shyly. "Ruri was brave too." The captain nodded. "Then maybe humans aren't as weak as the galaxy thinks." Later, Daun and Yuna went back to the lab. Ruri was lying down, her wings folded tight. She looked tired but peaceful. Yuna ran to her and hugged her neck. "You did so good," she whispered. Ruri made a soft sound, almost like a sigh, and closed her eyes. Daun stood by the doorway, watching them. Around her, the machines showed strange readings. Ruri's energy was stable again, but something about it was different. It was calm, balanced, almost human. She realized that the dragon had changed. Maybe she was no longer a Ragnar in the old sense. Maybe she was something new. Outside the windows, the Varn fleet retreated into the darkness of space. They would tell their leaders what had happened, that a human child had stopped them, not with weapons but with kindness. And somewhere in the galaxy, other races would begin to wonder what humans were truly capable of. As the base grew quiet again, Daun walked to the glass and looked out at the stars. "You changed everything today," she whispered, looking at Yuna and Ruri together. "You showed them what it means to be human." Yuna laughed softly as Ruri lifted her head and nudged her playfully. The light in the lab was warm and gentle. For the first time since the experiment began, the space base felt like home. The base on Aaron 7 was quiet after the battle. Days passed, and the crew slowly repaired the damage. The smell of burnt metal still hung in the air, but the fear was gone. The story of the little girl and the dragon spread across the human colonies. Many called it a miracle. Others called it a warning. But for Yuna, it was just her friend who saved everyone. Every morning, Yuna woke up early to visit Ruri. The dragon was growing fast. Her wings were wider, her scales brighter. She no longer looked like a hatchling. When Yuna came near, Ruri always lowered her head so the girl could climb on top of her. It was their daily game. Daun watched them from the lab window and smiled. For all the danger, she couldn't deny that they were happy. One afternoon, Captain Park came to the lab. His uniform was neat, but his eyes showed tiredness. "Dr. Han," he said, "we received a message from Earth Command." Daun turned from her monitor. "What did they say?" "They want us to bring the dragon to Earth," he said quietly. "They want to study her. They think she could be the key to understanding the Ragnar power." Daun frowned. "And Yuna?" "They didn't mention her," Park said. "But they'll separate them. You know how they work." Daun looked through the glass at Yuna and Ruri playing. "She won't allow it. Ruri won't either." Park nodded. "That's what worries me. If they try to take the dragon by force, it could end badly." That night, Daun sat with Yuna in their small room. The girl held her blanket close, her eyes sleepy. "Aunt Daun," she said softly, "are we going to leave the station?" Daun hesitated. "Maybe soon. The people from Earth want to see Ruri." "Can Ruri come too?" Yuna asked. "Yes," Daun said. "But they might want to keep her in a big lab. She won't be able to stay with you all the time." Yuna's eyes widened. "No, they can't take her. She's my friend. She'll be sad without me." Daun hugged her. "I know. I'll do everything I can to keep you together." The next day, a small Earth transport ship arrived. 4 soldiers and a science officer stepped out. The officer, a tall man with gray eyes, introduced himself as Dr. Kim Tae-sung. "We're here to escort the creature," he said. His voice was calm but cold. Daun met him in the command center. "You can't treat her like a thing," she said. "She's intelligent. She saved us." Dr. Kim smiled faintly. "That's exactly why Earth wants to study her. Imagine if we could use that power to defend all human colonies." Yuna ran into the room before Daun could stop her. "You can't take Ruri," she shouted. "She's not a weapon." The soldiers looked uneasy. Dr. Kim bent down to her level. "Little one, the dragon will be safe. We just want to understand her better." Yuna glared at him. "She doesn't need to be understood. She needs to be loved." Daun placed a hand on Yuna's shoulder. "That's enough, Yuna." She turned to Dr. Kim. "Give us time to prepare. She won't go easily if you rush." Dr. Kim nodded. "You have 1 day." That night, the station was quiet again, but Yuna couldn't sleep. She got up and walked to the lab in her pajamas. The door opened silently. Ruri was awake, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She lifted her head as Yuna came close. "They want to take you away," Yuna whispered. "I don't want you to go." Ruri made a soft rumble. Her eyes were sad. Yuna placed her forehead against Ruri's snout. "Let's run away," she said. "Just you and me." Daun entered the lab quietly behind her. She had guessed Yuna would come here. "Yuna," she said softly, "we can't run. There's nowhere safe for her out there. Every government would try to catch her." Yuna looked up at her aunt, tears on her cheeks. "Then what should we do?" Daun sighed. "Maybe there's another way. Maybe we can show them she isn't a threat." The next morning, Dr. Kim and his team came to take Ruri. The soldiers stood ready, weapons on their belts but not raised. Daun and Captain Park stood beside Yuna. The dragon stood tall behind them, calm but watchful. Dr. Kim stepped forward. "It's time." Yuna walked to him and said, "She'll come only if I go with her." Dr. Kim hesitated. "That's not possible." "Then she won't move," Yuna said simply. Ruri let out a low growl. The air around her shimmered. The soldiers stepped back nervously. Daun said firmly, "Let the girl come. You saw what happened last time she got scared." After a long pause, Dr. Kim nodded. "Fine. The girl comes too." They boarded the transport ship together. Through the window, Yuna watched the station grow smaller as they lifted off. Ruri lay quietly beside her, her tail curled around the girl's seat. Daun sat across from them, her hands folded tightly. The journey to Earth took several days. During that time, Ruri never once acted wild. She ate, she rested, and she let the scientists take harmless scans. Yuna stayed with her always, talking softly, telling her stories about Earth. "There are oceans," she said, "and forests, and blue skies. You'll like it." When they arrived, the scientists built a huge habitat under the surface. It was filled with light and air, big enough for Ruri to stretch her wings. But she didn't like it. She kept looking at the door where Yuna had gone out. They only allowed Yuna to visit for 1 hour a day. After a week, Ruri stopped eating. The scientists were worried. Daun argued with Dr. Kim again. "She's fading because she misses Yuna," she said. Dr. Kim shook his head. "Emotions can't kill a creature like that." But they were wrong. Ruri grew weaker each day. Yuna sat by the glass wall, crying. "Please let me go to her," she begged. Finally, Daun made a decision. That night, she used her access card to open the habitat door. Alarms went off, but she didn't care. Yuna ran to Ruri and hugged her neck. The dragon's eyes opened slowly. She let out a deep, tired breath. "I'm here, Ruri," Yuna said. "Don't leave me." A bright light filled the room. The machines went wild. The scientists ran in, shouting, but the light was too strong to see through. When it faded, Ruri was standing tall again. Her scales shimmered like silver fire. Yuna stood beside her, unharmed. Dr. Kim stared in disbelief. "What happened?" he whispered. Daun smiled faintly. "She doesn't draw power from rage or war. She draws it from love." Ruri spread her wings wide. The alarms kept ringing, but she didn't attack. Instead, she folded her wings around Yuna gently and bowed her head toward the humans. It was a gesture of peace. Dr. Kim lowered his tablet. Maybe we were wrong about her. News spread fast. Across the world, people saw the footage of the dragon bowing beside a little girl. The fear began to fade. Scientists started to call Ruri the Guardian, not the weapon. And for the first time, humans and other species began to see hope in something that once caused only fear. Months later, Yuna and Doon lived near the habitat, visiting every day. The government built a park around it where people could watch from a safe distance. Children came to see the great dragon and the small human who called her friend. Yuna laughed as Ruri lifted her gently into the air. The wind rushed through her hair. She looked down and saw people waving. "See, Ruri," she said. "They're not scared anymore." Doon watched from below, tears in her eyes but smiling. She knew the universe had changed forever. Not by war or science, but by a 7-year-old girl who looked at a monster